I'm Bethany.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Looking for the Middle,
the Christian Girl's Guide to Modern Dating.
Well, here we are, another day, another CouchCast episode.
Aren't y'all loving CouchCast?
Because
we are.
Yeah.
We are having a great time.
Because we love it.
We're literally just having chats by a microphone.
It's awesome. I mean, well, really, we're sitting here in Kristen's room talking to you guys. So it's basically like any other day, except there's a microphone sitting in front of us.
I met one of our listeners the other day. You know Ray
yes.
very well. Y'all go to church together. But I was talking to her, and we were kind of chatting at their Christmas event thing at their church, and Bethany walks over, and we started, like, the three of us talking, and she was like, I feel like I'm at the podcast right now. And we're like, yeah, we actually do sound like this when we talk when we're not recording. So this really just feels like us hanging out and talking about stuff we would normally talk about.
Yeah, so we want you guys to feel like you can approach us, like you can ask us. And I think you do. We get a decent number of questions.
Yes.
So send us something. If you want us to talk about it, send us a question, send us a topic, and we will take a stab at it. But for today, we have a bowl. We have papers in it with things that we want to talk about.
Yes.
Do you want to draw it out?
Yes, I would love to. Also, while I'm drawing, don't hurt my hand.
Oh, you're fine.
The mercy in this friendship is through the roof. For those of you who don't know what CouchCast is, if this is your very first time joining us, welcome. We are very happy to have
the couch.
you. Yes.
We can't talk.
These are our mini episodes that we're doing between seasons, where we're just picking a random topic or question that listeners have given us or sent to us, and we are unscripted and unprepared and talking about it.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Okay.
That's a scary
thought.
The
paper in your hand is driving me crazy. What
sorry.
is the topic?
First early date topics.
Ooh, so like things to talk about on a first date?
That's
or like early dates?
Great question.
That is a good one.
This would actually be super helpful for me if you have...
Seriously, I was like, ooh, I can't wait to talk about this, so I'm like going to take notes. Because I'm awkward.
All right, Bethany, first early date topics. What's a go-to thing you talk about on a first date? Or an early date?
Oh,
what are we calling early date? Like first 5 dates?
In the getting to know you. Like, it's still awkward. I think after 3, 4, 5 dates.
And it's not awkward
If
anymore.
it's still super awkward and you have nothing to talk about, you need to evaluate if you still want to be dating. Just to put it, or at least that's what I do.
No,
I'll give it a few.
Yeah.
And then if it's
you
like,
give it
oh
more
my
than I do.
word.
I give it
why
2.
is it so hard?
Maybe.
Then we'll reevaluate. You're terrible.
No, that was mean. I'm just... Bethany's more gracious than I am. That's what we're
Let's
say.
go with that.
Yeah.
I like that line of thinking. It's tricky because I think there's, obviously you can talk about family, you can talk about friends, what you like to do for fun, but what do you do for fun on the weekend question can only, like, everybody asks.
Everybody
like,
asks
it's,
that.
So I think almost more important is find something in common quickly.
Yes, that's a good
And I can't tell you what that thing would be, but I feel like that's almost more important than talking about specific things, is find something that you have in common and talk about that.
I think that's a great point. I know that for me, a lot of times, I'll try to go to sports.
Yeah, I do too a lot.
Because I think every guy I've dated has liked sports. That's pretty important to me.
Yeah.
That he does. I wouldn't, like, totally rule him out.
It would be
but
weird to be the one in a relationship that likes sports as much as both of us
do. So I try to go to that, and if you are into sports, you can talk about what you both played and how long you played.
And then there's always stories of, we were in a game, we did this, and blah, blah, blah.
So that's a go-to. And you can do that with any hobby, even if you're not into sports. If y'all are both into, like, traveling to the same places. Traveling is also a really good thing to talk about. Like, where have you been? Where do you want to go?
Not just the do you like to travel, but the specifics of it a little bit.
Or like, have you gone anywhere this year? Or
Yeah.
like, do you have any trips coming up? Or things like that. But
I think that's helpful of finding that in common thing, is take it below yes or no questions. Do you like to travel? Yes or no. Instead of maybe asking, do you like to travel, ask, what's your favorite place that you've been out of the country, or if they haven't been out of the country, then favorite state, because then they say, my favorite trip out of the country was this because we did this, and then you're getting to know them by asking questions that aren't, if you're asking questions that further the conversation naturally, which I think is important.
Yeah, because I think the more that you can do open-ended questions, conversation flows better in open-ended questions, where instead of you ask him a yes or no question, he says yes or no.
And then you sit
he
there
may or
staring
may
at each
not
other.
elaborate on it, and then you're like, okay, do I ask another one? Do I wait for him to ask me one? And it's just, there's a lot more room.
I can feel the tension rising as I
The
think about it. Because
awkwardness
I've been
is
on
like,
those first dates.
And they're miserable.
They are. It's the kind where you're like, oh my word, what is the minimum amount of time I have to sit here and be
or like you send
acceptable?
me a text and say, hey, tell me my apartment's on fire.
Something.
Oh gosh. No, I think that is a really good one though, to just find something in common that you can talk about.
I think it makes a difference too how well you know the guy beforehand.
That's a good point.
If it's a blind date or you've never met, well, those are the same thing. Never mind.
Told you it was unfiltered and unprepared.
So, if it's a blind date or you're being set up or whatever, then you're going to talk about the basics of, oh, where do you work and what do you do? And
where are you from? And
right, where'd you go to college? What'd you study? All those kinds of things. That's one thing. But if it's someone that you meet, you talk for a while, you text, you whatever, then you go out, that's where you, I think, jump into more of like, oh, let's find things we have in common. And then I think that helps with your actual dates too, because then once you found those things, you can go do that thing.
Yeah, that's very true.
Or go to something related to that, which will then just keep the conversation going more and more and more because you know you're both interested in that. I think that's a tough thing, planning those early dates. Whether the guy's doing it or you're doing it, whether he's asked what you want to do, is saying, oh, well, I'd like to do these 3 things, let's say. But I don't know if he likes any of them. And so it's kind of hard to figure out. So if you quickly find those things that you have in common, then it'll help plan dates, it'll help further conversation and all of that.
I totally agree. Another thing that this is a recent thing that I've started asking, but like, does he read? What's he reading? What are his favorite podcasts or his favorite Netflix shows or things like that? Because then you can take it from a stance of one. If you both love The Office, then I mean you could talk about that for hours. Or if you don't watch some of the same shows, you can take recommendations. You can give him a recommendation. Then y'all could both like go watch each other's show or movie, and then you can like text about it later. You have a follow-up thing. And I'm kind of a nerd, so I like hearing about that stuff.
Yeah. Well, it tells you a lot about them too, I think.
Definitely.
Because if you're like, you watch what? And you're like, I've never heard of any of those. Or it's stuff that you're like, I would never watch that. I would don't make a decision about a relationship based on any of that, but it kind of speaks to maybe their discretion a little, and you're like, that is completely inappropriate, why are you watching that? You can quickly learn things about people from that standpoint too.
Yeah, that's a really, like you said, it just gives you an idea of, okay, what are they interested in, what do they feel like is okay versus what's not, and you learn a lot about a person based on their interests in pop culture or otherwise. So
well, that took a turn.
Seriously, man. It got really serious.
Let's like, oh wow, let's
make this fun
go back
again.
To first dates.
So speaking of online dating, which by the way, we're doing a series on online
4
dating.
4 or 5 episodes.
We decided on 3.
Yeah, so 3. I can't count.
I'm like, wait, did I miss something? Did I miss a meeting? So we are doing a series on that in season 2, so you're gonna really want to stick around for that. But with online dating, I know you talk a lot before you go out with a guy. One, because you want to figure out who he is and try to find him on social media before you meet him, which is what I do.
We'll talk about that later.
Yes,
too.
But what are some recommendations? Because if you've talked about all the basic things with online dating, what are some things you can talk about on a first date with a guy that you've already had a lot of conversation with?
It's tough. I will say that's one of the hardest things about online dating is going on a first date with someone that you already know because you've talked so much, especially if you've talked on the phone or FaceTimed even, but you also don't know them because you've never met them in person. It is a very awkward thing. One of the best things I've found to do is just straight up address the awkwardness. Say it's awkward, be like, I don't do well with awkward silences. I feel like I have to fill them always. So
no, you
I know, doesn't sound like me at all, does it?
No.
So I'll just say that. Like, if there's an awkward silence, I'll be like, I'm so sorry, it's awkward, and I feel like I have to It totally has broken the ice before. Also, one thing that I found is helpful, but can also tip over into not helpful at all, is you both met because you were both online dating. So I ask, how long were you online? before we talked.
Or
how many,
why'd you get online?
Yeah, I talk about that. But then you have to be careful because I've been on dates before where we talked about that and then we just went into, like, people we gone out with, like, or weird things people had said or just different stuff, and that can kind of just be weird or whatever. So you be careful with that.
Yeah.
But I think
you don't have to go too deep into it, but you can address
going back to, you have that in common. Talk about why you got online, what you were looking for. Talk about the funny things that happen because they do. Mm-hmm. It is a funny thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a really good thing to talk about.
Yeah. Another thing I'll say, and this one I would suggest that you kind of let it come up naturally. This is not something where you're like directly maybe ask it, but talking about family.
Uh-huh.
So, it's like, so how's your relationship with your parents? Like, because you don't know that, especially if you don't know.
Ask if their parents live nearby. That's
that, or even, like, I know my family will just come up in conversation sometimes of, like, oh, I was at my parents' house the other day, or I was talking to my sister. And sometimes the guy will ask, like, oh, okay, well, how many siblings do you have? And so then you can kind of return those questions. So if family is something that's really important to you, or that, you talk about a lot, or that you're looking for a guy that has a really good family.
Oh, and again, you'll have that in common. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a family.
So I think that's something that you can definitely talk about in your early dates, but maybe not, like, asking really personal, direct questions about their family while you're trying to feel out, like, is he close to this family? Yeah. Do they get along? Do they not? Do I need to not talk about it? Do I need to let him bring it up? It can be a touchy one, but I think it can be a really good thing to talk about, too, starting off. Yeah. I also would say, and I don't know if this is a general topic necessarily, but as he is talking to you and as you're talking, pay attention to how he talks about other people.
Yes.
Like, whether those are his friends, his family, his coworkers. I think you can tell a lot about a guy by how he talks about people when they're not around.
Yeah.
And so regardless of what you're talking about, I think that that's something that's really important to pay attention to, and that can I'm not talking loud enough. Something really important to pay attention to that can open your eyes about a lot of things with the guy. So
I agree.
That would just be a little side recommendation. That's free of charge. Yep. You're welcome.
One last thing, let me say real quick, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah.
And I've done this before. If you're kind of like, oh my word, what are we going to talk about? Google good first date icebreaker questions.
Oh, definitely. Or Pinterest.
Go on Pinterest. Have a few in your back pocket, ready to go. So if there is an awkward silence that you need to fill, you've got something that you can, a good open-ended question that you can ask.
That's a great idea.
That's where I would start.
Or you can go back and listen to our season 1 episodes and pull our questions of the day.
Oh, that's
you can
true.
Ask those
that's
too.
That's a really good idea.
Also free of charge. We're just like Oprah. Like, you get this, and you get this, and you get this. Just kidding. That was a little bit of an exaggeration. Well, I hope all of that's helpful.
I think so. I think it was.
I think it was helpful. I learned a lot. So
it was good.
I'll file all of this away on my next
and we'll be less
first
awkward.
date. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Hopefully. Okay. Anyway, though, thanks guys for joining us. This was fun. If you've got any good first date go-to topics that you talk about, go comment on social media. Let us know what they are so we can add them to our list too. Because we definitely could use some help.
Obviously.
So, we'll be back in the near future with another episode, and season 2 starts in February. So stick around. Until then, I'm Bethany.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Looking for the Middle.